very pleased and honored to have on the line with us DeRay McKesson, activist, educator, candidate for mayor of Baltimore, co-founder of Protester Newsletter and Campaign Zero. His website, DeRay, DERAY, for mayor, MAYOR.com. DeRay, welcome to the program.
It's good to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
It's great to have you with us. Tell us, it's been 1 year since Freddie Gray was killed in Baltimore, Maryland. You're running now for mayor of that city. What's the status of the entire issue of the police and the tech strategies and techniques of policing in Baltimore and that sort of thing?
So we know that the conversation is fundamentally different now than it was a year ago, that people are talking about policing, that people are more open to reform, and that the legislation that recently passed at the State House is an example of that. But we also know that changing systems and structures is slow work. So the conversation is often the beginning, but we have to make sure that we put people in elected office who understand this work at a deep level, and that we continue to focus on how to change systems and structures. We can't undo 100 years of tension and oppression and strife in 100 days. We know that that's not the way the world works, but we can continue to work on it. So there's a coalition of people around the city, around the state, who are focused on these issues in ways that are really important.
So step by step, what is the first step in your mind for making these kinds of change, DeRay?
So when I think about the police, when I think about issues of safety, I know that the safety of our communities is not predicated on the presence of police, right? So if I ask you where you feel the most safe, it's not in a room full of police. It's like where you're loved, where there's food and shelter, where there's family. When I think about the police, there are three big buckets. One is around crime prevention. And crime prevention work really isn't police work, though. That's about strong schools, families, jobs. The response to crime is a second bucket, and that is police work. But so many people in our neighborhoods have mental health trauma. And the response to all trauma can't be somebody with a gun.
Right.
So I think about people I've talked to who said they called for help when a friend has threatened to commit suicide, and an officer shows up, and that just exacerbates the trauma. It doesn't actually de-escalate. So we have to have a different response to trauma that is not someone with a gun. And the third is about accountability and integrity. And when we think about solving crime, which is ostensibly police work, that can't happen when there's no trust. So in Baltimore, for instance, it's not against the rules to hog tie and chokehold people. That doesn't make sense. In Baltimore, we can't automatically drug test officers who were involved in a deadly force shooting. That doesn't make sense. I'm calling for the DOJ to expand their review of the police department to include school police and internal affairs. And Commissioner Davis and I even agree that in Baltimore, you can make alternate hearing boards. The officers can make alternate hearing boards where they're disciplined internally, and that also doesn't make sense. So there are a host of common sense reforms that we can do to actually make the city safer and the police department more accountable at the same time.
In some countries, and I don't know the timeline on this, but I know that some years ago when I was in the UK, most police officers did not carry weapons, or maybe a baton at the most. And in Canada, I believe that police officers, the first couple of years of their being a police officer, they don't carry a weapon. Any thoughts on that, on not just demilitarizing and de-escalating, but literally disarming a small percentage of the police department, or maybe even a consequential percentage, so that they can show up when somebody says, I'm going to commit suicide, and they're not coming in with a gun drawn. They're coming in as a person, maybe in uniform, but still a person?
Yeah, so this is two-pronged, right? Some of it is about how do we make sure that we have the most skilled people responding to specific incidents. And I don't think that an officer is the best person to respond to a suive attempt. That it's likely somebody who is trained in mental health.
So it should be a social worker,
right?
Okay. Yeah.
Beyond it. But I've worked with officers. I've worked with people in law enforcement who are dedicated to these issues across the country, and they are learning from countries that don't have guns about how to de-escalate really tough situations. So I can think about a working group I was with not too long ago where they talked about the method of surrounding people in crisis, like people who have screwdrivers or knives, surrounding them and then closing in a way, like just with their shields, but without a gun drawn.
Yeah, there was a video of that exact thing happening in the UK a few months ago that went totally viral.
Yeah, but it's like the way they're trained, and people are starting to train that way here in the States, and I think that could actually be a powerful example of how to do this work right.
Profile for us the mayor's race for Baltimore. Who are you running against? What are you up at? We're talking with DeRay McKesson right now. DeRay for Mayor is his website.com. Back to you, DeRay.
Yeah, so there are about 13 people running, or 12 people running on the Democrat side. About 6 of us have raised enough money to get the word out. And when we think about this race, remember that this is the first primary for a long time where the presidential primary and the mayor's primary, the mayoral primary, fall on the same day. So this electorate will just look different. We've never seen this before in the city. So the turnout is something that we just don't know what it will be. Traditionally, it is 50 and older black women are the single biggest voting bloc. We don't know how that will change, given that the tension between Bernie and Hillary will likely bring so many more people to the polls.
Yeah.
And that could be really powerful. My campaign, we touch about 1,000 doors a day. And we're continuing to talk to so many people around the city. And believe it or not, so many people are still really undecided.
About who to vote for mayor?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's the sort of race that's not being covered by network news, and people who get most of their information from television probably don't know that much about it. So, I'm glad to have you here with us. We're talking with DeRay McKesson, DeRay for Mayor, DERAY for FORmayor.com is his website. In the 1 year since Freddie Gray was killed by the Baltimore Police Department, what changes have happened in Baltimore?
Yeah, so like I said, the conversation has fundamentally changed. Some legislation has passed at the state that'll give more civilian oversight into internal affairs, internal disciplinary hearings, and the training processes. And some of that work is going to be really important.
Has the whole rough ride thing come to an end?
That's city policy, and we have been told that it has. It's too soon for there to be like a comprehensive review of it, but we've been told that it has.
Right. Remarkable. Well, DeRay, I wish you the very best. I'm so glad you could come on our program and talk with us. It's an honor to have you with us. And if there's, if you ever have something you want to talk about on this program, the door is always open for you. So thank you so much for dropping by today.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Talk to you later.
Good talking with you. DeRay McKesson, activist, educator, candidate for mayor of Baltimore. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.